What's poppin', people? It's your boy Shaq, aka Black Nansky Subaru. Long story short, my boys, we took a little bit of the hiatus for the recordings for Arc 9 chapters, and now we're finally getting back into it. Now, expect that these are going to come out, I don't want to say daily. They may, because like that's a little bit too fast. I mean, by the time that the newer chapters come out, I don't think that I would have recorded everything as quickly, but let's just say every other day you're going to be getting a chapter of Arc 9. Now, if you guys are already caught up, then please, no spoilers in the comments. If you guys do want me to talk about very specific aspects of a chapter or something like that that I don't cover in the overall reading or analysis, let me know. Let me know in the comments. You know, I'm very much down to talk about this type of shit any fucking time. Give me the opportunity and I'll yap about ReZero all fucking day. Now, we already know how this goes. I'm bricked up. You're bricked up. Let's be bricked up together and read ReZero Arc 9 Chapter 21. 21? The brain rot. Got some lo-fi on the background, and not sure if this is gonna be copyrighted or not. I mean, honestly, I'm not making crazy money or anything from YouTube, so it's like, hey, shout out to, wait, hold on, let me see. Check and see who this is. I'll probably put their info in the description. Shout out to YouTube channel Neo Chill. This is Glowing Lo-Fi Girl, if anyone wants to know the vibes. It's neon vibes and smooth beats. Chill hop art. Neo Chill. Yeah, right now it's Pixel Rain, Jazzy Jazz, Lo-Fi, Rhodes Piano, Nostalgic Chill. Anyway, yeah, I just want to put that out there just so copyright shit, but also it's a vibe. Anyway, yeah, I feel like this is gonna be like one of the better things to listen to while reading the tragedy that is ReZero. So, this chapter, Arc 9, Chapter 21, Valga Cromwell. Shout out to the boys, everyone here. Got the human translated by, machine translated by, proofreaders. We got the Japanese to English checking, then we got the art source. Okay. Expand territory. Matrix redefinition. Dealing with alterations in the situation. Second by second, moment by moment, instant by instant, he advanced the world. For Aldebaran's authority, incapable of turning the clock back on a grand scale, this was a gamble that reeled his victory in steadily, but simultaneously posed the risk of definitively relinquishing his victory. This is nigh the perfect villain for Subaru. Oh my god, like if we actually, you already know when I do like the fucking, oh my god, dude, like the forehead squeeze, like dude. Y'all already know how hard I'm fucking locked in and thinking about this shit. It's been a minute since I've read Arc 9 or, you know, followed up with Arc 9. As you guys know, it's probably been at least, like what, like a month or two? How long has it been? I'm gonna double check right now. It's been at least, it's been like 2 months. Dude. Anyway, and I know Tape took a break too, and we can definitely read some side stories, but I digress. Man. Al is like he's the perfect villain for Subaru right now. He's perfect. Let me see. Expand territory. Matrix. Wait, I just read that. Okay, yeah. Wait, he's doing it again. Oh shit. Oh shit. He keeps changing it. Cause he's not trying to get caught. Oh my god, dude. Yo, oh my, dude, this shit is so perfect. It's perfect. Wait, so For Aldebaran's authority, incapable of turning the clock back on a grand scale. This was a gamble that reeled his victory in steadily, but simultaneously posed the risk of definitively relinquishing his victory. Expand territory! Matrix redefinition! Step by step, move by move, action by action, he verified, defined, and moved the board towards a checkmate. The way the highest caliber of warriors would unceasingly and continuously advance in this manner, piling up experience in a world of ceaseless bouts, all decided by a single move. He really could not imagine it. Expand territory, matrix, redefinition. And that was not limited to just warriors. The highest caliber of intellects were the same in the sense of their ability to think in a different dimension. Rather, since they were not directly involved in practice, they would go without knowing the true fragrance of blood and the pain of wounds, merely constricting or constructing the progression of the world within their heads. So there was possibly more of a monstrous sense to them. In any case, expand territory, matrix, redefinition. Trampling on the discipline of warriors and the deliberations of intellectuals alike, disregarding the law of reality that dictated an inability to ascertain the results of two different choices simultaneously, Aldebaran would merely snatch victory away, even in battles that were to be decided by a single blow. The former had every right to curse, loathe, and scorn his way of being as contemptible. Let those vilifications of their cuts into him as much as they liked. In exchange, expand territory, matrix, redefinition. With this dirty method, he would absolutely seize victory, except against Reinhardt. At this point, I bet you're hoping for as much amiability as a pig wanting to be fed. Wringing out a low, groaning voice, the joke of the pig-faced man, the king pig, Doltero Emule, when compared to his previous dignified, despair-inducing ones, came out as a husky rasp. That was only natural. His entire body was covered in lacerations from steel threads, and he was losing copious amounts of blood from his innumerable wounds. Rather, the fact that he was still conscious and that his face wore no grievous expression was far more strange. Having come this far, I know you're not afraid of dying, but even if you don't fear death, pain should still be painful, yeah? You don't understand even when saying it yourself. Both death and pain are ultimately things that make us afraid. Then, all we gotta do is swallow that fear. I can't understand you. Doltero's point was that the fear induced by death and the fear induced by pain were one and the same. But the way Aldebaran saw it, those were different things. The fear born of death and the fear born of pain were different. To take it further, since pain was a stimulus to the body, it seemed rather distinct from fear. No matter what you say, it's a backbiting of a pig. Or it's the backbiting of a pig. Before Aldebaran, white froth emerged from, I misread that. Before Aldebaran, white froth emerged in the corners of Doltero's mouth as he muttered thus. Around the thick neck of the king pig, a fine steel wire was wound around several tens of times, applying pressure to his trachea. Doltero had resisted that at the strangling by slipping 2 fingers in, but those fingers sunk into his neck and lost their function. And with blood no longer circulating to his brain, his large body finally fell to its knees. Having fallen to his knees, Dotaro was surrounded by the 55 collapsed subordinates who had accompanied him. While taking on his king pig, he had taken down the other men one by one, an effort that had literally broken his bones, cleaved off his flesh, and robbed him of his life numerous times. In total, 23,008 times. I wonder if these number of deaths are significant to anything. It seems quite curious because we're getting very specific numbers for the deaths, and I mean, there could be some references. I'm not going to put it past them. I'm not going to put it past Tape, but just for now, I'm going to say, chat, just take heed of these numbers. They may not mean anything later, but knowing Tape, they may mean everything at some point. I don't know. The amount of deaths taken, I don't know. There could be a reference somewhere. But I digress. Where am I? With this many attempts, this was among the top echelon of Aldebaran's veteran history of losing battles. Holy shit, so he was going through it. Of course, one contributing factor was that the organized attacks of the King Pig and his underlings of the black silver coin had been exceedingly thorough. But the primary cause had been Aldebaran's own lack of talent. The steel thread entangled around Doltaro's neck was not one that extended out from Ye's hand, but from the hand of Aldebaran, who had borrowed one of her rings. Manipulating a steel thread with a single finger, he had closed in on Doltaro's fierce attack, one move at a time, and affixed a thread to his neck, tying it around to apply as much pressure as he could to that thick neck. Amidst this harsh territory, learning the steel thread technique from square one until it was viable for him had required the time of over 20,000 attempts. Imagine trying to, or needing to learn something under pressure in that short amount of time. Boom! Sounded the fist as it vigorously slammed into the ground, Doltaro falling completely unconscious. Even still, the body of the King Pig, who reigned over the criminal underworld, did not topple over sideways. Rather, his large body was supported by his own fists pressed into the ground, a demonstration of his dignity. Unbowed, unbent, unbroken. Dude, Tape's riding, oh my gosh! In spite of being his enemy, he could not help but commend that posture. You're outrageous, Al-sama. I was proud that nobody in the village except me need to learn it. But isn't this now a disgrace? And beside Aldebaran, as he stood out of breath before the silenced Doltaro, Ye, having strung every last adversary aside from Doltaro in the air, spoke so. There's a fly. Her eyes narrowed like a cat's. I shall get thee. Observed Aldebaran's steel thread technique that had tied up Doltaro. Be that as it may, it was impossible for him to easily accept that praise. Don't be ridiculous. With just a single finger, all the muscles from the top of my head to the tips of my toes are on the verge of cramping. Doing 10 times that with 10 fingers. Are you actually super muscular despite looking so thin? Are you taking an interest in what's under my uniform, Al-sama? I've given you so many chances to check for yourself, and yet you were always so mean as to turn me down. The ring. Let me borrow it for just a little longer. Responding to Ye as she mischievously poked fun at him, Aldebaran stroked the ring fitted on his ring finger of his right hand. So like middle finger? Okay. I guess. Isn't this the ring finger? The middle finger? Or is it this one? Middle finger or this finger? I don't know, man. I'm not married. Yes, we do have a shot ready. Okay. I forgot where I was. He had tested on each finger, but it felt the most intuitive on Aldebaran's ring finger. In all honesty, he had been reluctant to put a ring on his finger, but he did not have a left hand to begin with. It was nonsensical to bring such emotional obstinacies of a little girl onto the battlefield. In any case. Oh man, old man, you alright? I didn't have much leeway to pay attention your way. My bad. No, that's fine. That's alright. As Aldebaran checked on his well-being, Heinkel choked on his words as he nodded. During the battle with Dotaro, Heinkel, to put it bluntly, had fallen into a useless state of malfunction. But after Ye had tied up the men, he had contributed to knocking them unconscious and breaking the conversation mirror of the mirror bearer. So, Aldebaran would acknowledge that he had done his job. As expected, against a certain level of powerful individuals, Dotaro was a given. But it would be difficult to count Heinkel among their fighting strength when it came to clash with those in the same ballpark as Gaston. Aldebaran had no intention of reproaching Heinkel, who harbored such a mental fragility. Everyone had an opponent whom their soul would absolutely refuse to face. For Ye, it was Aldebaran, and for Aldebaran, that was Subaru. It mattered not. Aldebaran, you, what's really the deal with you? You had absolutely no chance of defeating that pigman. He was someone who utterly exceeded you in both skill and power, and yet, you were the one who won in the end. And mostly unharmed at that. Overwhelmingly so. With eyes as if he were beholding something truly august, Heinkel spoke thus to Aldebaran. Listening to Heinkel's words, Aldebaran revised his evaluation of him to that of a man who was quite observant. Perhaps precisely because he had been watching as an onlooker, Aldebaran's irregularity had left more of an impression. Neither was it that Aldebaran had grown strong, nor was it that he was a strong match against Dotaro. If it must be said, it would have appeared as if he had won by piling 100 lucky shots. He's a monster. Hence, plainly declaring so, and not asking for anything more, Ye's attitude was rather pleasant. Answering Heinkel in Aldebaran's stead, her face bore no semblance of fear or awe. After all, Ye, her impression of Aldebaran had already been completed. Alsama is a monster. We're working alongside a monster, you know. I know a lot of people who are like monsters, but this guy's... There's a difference between those who are like monsters and actual monsters. Please don't talk about such shams. Her speech was gentle, her expression a smile. However, her phrasing was neither a confirmation nor a denial. Overpowered by the claim yet threatening demeanor Ye showed on the surface, Heinkel was at a loss for words. Let's see. Wait. Regardless of whether I'm a monster or not, we'll proceed from here just as planned. Ye'll suppress the opponent's numbers, and I'll deal with the strong ones. Old man, I'm counting on you to follow my directions and deal with the mirrors. Yeah, got it. Aye. As you command, Alsama. Next to Heinkel, as he timidly nodded, Ye lifted her arms in a hurrah, and with a fine movement of her fingertips, she controlled her steel threads, guided by her fingers. The steel threads coiled around the fainted Dotaro, binding the limbs of the king pig that had demonstrated his obstinacy to not collapse, stringing him up in the air with the others. Even if he understood that it was a safety measure in the case Dotaro woke up, it did not feel good. That went not only for Dotaro, but for Ratchins too, who had needed to be beaten to the point of fainting. My head hurts. Frankly, he had underestimated Feld's group. Outside of Reinhardt, he had thought them all to be non-combatants excluding Ezo. Still, the old giant himself, Gracias and Gaston, and the main target of Feld were waiting for him. If you just remove that single shackle, Aosama, I'd be more effective, you know? Just remove that single shackle. This goes without saying, but rather than tying them up, I'm better at strangling people to death, this little old me. Oh shit, that was fucking yay. Oh my god. This goes without saying, but rather than tying them up, I'm better at strangling people to death, this little old me. Every so often, for various reasons, Ye would speak words to tempt Aldebaran, but even more so than when the whispers tried to lure him to the bedroom. These struck Aldebaran's eardrums in a much more alluring manner. Unlike Heiko, who was unable to demonstrate his true strength for emotional reasons, the reason why Ye could not show her true worth was none other than because she was abiding by Aldebaran's ego. Is that to save everybody and not to kill people unless necessary? Oh, is this Subaru from a different timeline? Ooh, nah, JK. Were he to lift that restriction, the forest abundant in cover would instantly become Ye's hunting ground. Even if the opponent was 500 strong, it would not take much time before the green leaves were all stained with blood. Only it was not that Ye was muttering in discontent for being unable to do that. After all, no matter how bereft of legitimacy those directions were, it was her nature to follow orders. Hence, the reason she was whispering to Aldebaran was like this was, "Thank you, but it's none of your concern." Oh my. Sticking her tongue out with a bleh, Ye was surprised that her proposal had been rejected. From the start, it was a proposal she had no expectation of being accepted. Surprisingly, no, it was not surprising, for she who whispered for Aldebaran to accomplish his goal, but it seemed to have set him alight with motivation. Thanks to that sweet, tempting complaint, Aldebaran regained his exhausted willpower. How are y'all doing so far? We're about 23 minutes in. We are nowhere close to being done with this chapter. And that's how y'all know that these reads are going to be long and you guys are going to have a lot of content to look forward to. So in the meantime, like what I'm getting so far is we're seeing that Heinkel is picking up on the fact that a lot of the feats that Al is accomplishing are unnatural, right? And if someone of Heinkel's status and power, despite a lot of people thinking that Heinkel's weak, which he's not, a lot of what he's been able to deduce and pick up on, do you think that the higher ups in the verse can't pick up on similar shit? Like, sure, he's an amazingly skilled fighter, but when you think about other characters such as Wilhelm, fucking the Amelia camp, the Krush camp, the fucking Anastasia camp, all of these different camps, right? How do you think they view Subaru when he goes from quite literally like a fuck up nobody who was apparently Amelia's attendant in the capital in season 1 or episode 13, and not even like in their time, not even like 4 or 5 days later, this same no name essentially kills a Sin Archbishop, kills a modern day witch for the first time in history, and defeats one of the 3 great mobbies. It's like, I mean, you know, it's crazy that you did this, but you know, Loki, when I really think about it, every step of the way you kind of knew. It almost seemed like you kind of knew what was going on or how to prepare for what was going to go on. There wasn't really much room for for there to be like crazy situations that you weren't quote unquote prepared for to a degree. So it's like, so it just seems interesting, because if you have a character like this, imagine how characters think of Subaru, you know, and how perceptive they are of him. There's probably so many characters who we haven't even gotten their name chapters yet, who aren't even going to explain why they feel the way they feel towards Subaru and why. Because like we got, you know, like Choose Me was one of my favorite episodes in any anime of all time, and including, you know, obviously one of the best episodes of ReZero. And the fact that we got Beatrice's backstory, but we didn't get the name chapter Beatrice, like, bro, it just means that when we get it, it's gonna be fucking gas. It's gonna be fucking gas. But I digress. What I'm trying to get at is us getting so much info about the character's insights. It's like you don't know who's gonna know what until the very end of the story, and how people feel about others, how people are perceived. I don't think we've gotten any of the Felt Camp's backstories, like in the same way of a named chapter, you know. But oh my goodness, I digress. Let's keep going. Thanks to that sweet tempting complaint. Oh wait, thanks to that sweet tempting complaint, Aldebaran regained his exhausted willpower. We also have the option to continue through the forest and slip through the south, but that's a no-go when considering what's to follow. Unfortunately for them, we'll be having Lil Miss Felt and her crew be defeated here. Understood. Then, proceed as planned. The atmosphere from the preceding conversation vanished, and Aldebaran nodded as Ye as she inclined her head. Then, thinking of Felt and the old giant who were likely working out a plan to secure victory on the other side of the forest, he quietly muttered, "You guys are strong. It's just your stars were bad." Ooh! That might have to be a tat. Ooh! Your stars were bad. Oh, bro. Witnessing that the third conversation mirror had been broken, Ramji became convinced. As I thought, you're doing more than just seeing through our plans. He removed and discarded one of the conversation mirrors fitted into his gauntlets. Having lost its counterpart, it no longer served any purpose. Ramji considered the helmet bastard's optimal conduct, immediately identifying the mirror bearer, ordained with a conversation mirror, an action whose essence was to disrupt the flow of information. Rations had fallen, and even Doltaro, who had rushed to the scene, had been utterly defeated. Although he had estimated it to be a possible outcome, Ramji could not hold back his surprise at the defeat of the King Pig, having known the latter for quite a long time. I know he's from a side story. I know he's from like the fucking Wilhelm side story. If he'd been born a mere 10 years earlier, his name probably would have gone down in history books telling of the demi-human war. Oh, that's Rom talking. Is he talking about Al? The person in question would have likely laughed at the statement and brushed it off as an exaggeration, but in Ramji's mind, it was a fair assessment. But then again, the demi-human war had not been such a close affair that Doltaro alone would have been able to make the difference between victory and defeat. Oh, he's talking about Doltaro, okay. Even his name would have been recorded as an annalise of history, sorry. He most likely would have been among the many who had lost their lives at the hands of the sword demon of that generation's sword saint. Either way, Doltaro had been defeated. Did that mean the opponent was on the same level as the sword demon? Nah, that ain't it. Shaking his thick head from side to side, Ramji discarded his pessimistic thoughts. In truth, the existence of the sword demon was something of a trauma for Ramji. Against the lone sword demon, even if Ramji were to command a force numbering 1,000, he would glimpse no sign of victory whatsoever. Oh shit. This was not to say that the sword demon was the strongest in the world, but rather that his renown made him appear that way. There was indeed those proprieties of renown such that their opponents would be made to feel that victory would be unattainable, even if that was not truly the case. Even for Felt, the prospect of competing head-to-head against the big shots of the criminal underworld was unlikely, both in terms of physical strength and intelligence. Nonetheless, they still looked up to her as their queen. That was the unshakable quality known as renown, something in which the Helmet Bastard was lacking. To put it simply, he did not inspire fear. However, it could be said that it contributed to the unknowns of his character. Well then, we just have to eliminate those unknowns one by one. Launch them up! Following the orders called out by Ramji, the fighters who remained on hand, numbering around 20, began to move. Fire magic ore was ignited and launched where the contents of the magic cannon, The latter were vulnerable items that could be carried by hand and used continuously if properly cooled. However, the stone magic which they had fired held even greater value. They were Night Banishers. Ooh. Immediately after, white lights sliced across the sky of the battlefield like bolts of lightning, instantly scattering the clouds. The glow of the blue sky peering out chased away the approaching dusk, rewriting time. No, that was not the case. The effect of the Night Banisher was merely a reproduction of daytime. If launched at night, it would overwrite the darkness, giving the appearance of a daytime sky. It was even possible to create an inexplicable phenomenon, in which raindrops would fall from a clear sky if no one were to... Wait, what the fuck? If one were to be emulated on a rainy day. What? Okay. Sorry. Give me a sec. Give me a sec, chat. Tomate. Okay, one sec. All right. Shot number 2. Let's go. I mean, sip of iced tea? Question mark? Yeah, this is iced tea. Tastes amazing. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Okay. Originally, the Night Banisher's intended effect had been to drive away the night that caused chaos on the battlefield, but this magic stone had another effect that most were unaware of. To rewrite an overcast day into a sunny one, to turn night into day, was the effect of painting reality over with an illusion. That was to say, if he's been watching us from the sky, then he can't really wait. If he's been watching us from the sky, then he can't rely on that view anymore. No more. Goddamn. The reading, I was doing so decent. Anyway, as the battle dragged on, the night banishing magic stones that had been prepared for nightfall came into play. Judging this to be a rare stroke of good fortune, Ramji took steps to seal off one of the possible explanations behind the Helmet Bastard's actions. An eye in the heavens, which may have been surveilling. But then again, Unit 6 reporting. We found the Helmet Bastard. We're going to... Judging by the report of the mirror bearers assigned to Unit 6 and the subsequent lost communication, the Helmet Bastard had broken a fourth conversation mirror, and as such, Ramji was convinced that the possibility of an eye in the heavens had completely vanished. However, he was not discouraged. In the first place, the likelihood of an eye in the heavens had been low. In response to the optimal conduct of the helmet bastard, Ramaji's first instructions were for the mirror bearers of each unit to alternate at regular intervals, and to report the next movements in writing through the mirror. However, the helmet bastard responded to this by eliminating the designated mirror bearers right away, twice in a row. Even supposing he was able to observe their movements from the sky, he would not have been able to fully respond to every move. In that case, what remained was, it might be a great spirit I know nothing about, or a powerful divine protection, or he might be seeing inside his opponent's mind. Otherwise, perhaps it ain't minds that he's seeing, but the future? And so, he listed each possibility that came to mind and made plans to eliminate them one by one. It was hard to imagine that the helmet bastard had a great spirit with him. Considering his actions, a spirit's true talent was magic, but the helmet bastard showed no signs of using a spirit's power to overcome this onslaught of challenges. Assistance from spirits of the yin and yang attributes would not have been as noticeable as from spirits of other attributes, but those spirits were also of high rarity. The possibility that one was accompanying him was not zero, but it's of low priority. Unit 7, go east. Unit 9, proceed southeast. Hurry to where Unit 6 fighting. Never mind, there ain't a need to support Unit 6. Instead, let's get your two units working together. Use your magic stones and throwing stones. We gotta see if we can make him use 2 or more divine protections no matter what. By nature, only a single divine protection could dwell within an individual. There had only been a handful of people in history who held multiple divine protections, and the number of people whose divine protections both proved useful could only be counted on one hand. It was odd that among those individuals abnormally blessed by fortune, the likes of the Sword Saint and the Mad Prince both existed in this current day and age. But there was a possibility that the helmet bastard could be a third one added to those ranks. Henceforth, you can ascertain someone's divine protection by building and stacking up hardships and watching how they handle it. It ain't for nothing that I've been called the one who's killed the most divine protection holders in the world. Okay. World building, fucking development. Okay. I'll pour up to that one. Okay. I don't see it on screen, but it is my handy dandy brisk iced tea. Anyway, that's crazy. I didn't know that. Oh, sorry, Rem figure. One of the Rem figures fell over. She's not really that sturdy. Let's see. 9. Okay. All right, bet. Oh, where am I? From the sudden deployment of the Night Banisher onward, Aldebaran sensed that the situation had worsened dramatically, with the movements of the opposition clearly being laced with contrived inaction. Even merely identifying the mirror bearer had become increasingly difficult, ramping up his number of attempts up by an order of magnitude. Because they keep shuffling around the role of mirror bearer, it's the timing of initiating the confrontations even slightly off. A completely different guy will have the mirror. Moreover, in place of straightforward attacks that aimed at simply suppressing, defeating, or killing Aldebaran and his allies, there was a marked increase in attacks that seemed to be aimed at testing their reactions. Setting aside those underlying intentions, Aldebaran was tormented by having to deal with such offenses that did not directly threaten his life. They were attacks of lethal nature, assured to rob him of his life. he could crush them without mercy, unhesitantly, taking measures to stifle them at their inception. However, since that intent was nebulous, and since its impact was minimal, comparable to that of clearing a pebble off the roadside, the conduct required of him was overwhelmingly extensive. Taken to an extreme, even a single scratch means asking whether I should start over. Yeah, he's getting pushed up against a wall. Having said that, he still could not ignore attacks that, akin to slow-acting poison, would force him into a softlock because he had merely been struck by them. As a result, once that uncertainty took root in him, Aldebaran had no choice but to deal with each and every attack, ramping up the number of attempts by yet another order of magnitude. You're getting on my nerves, shitty old geezer! As the number of mirrors being shattered continued to accumulate, Ramji grew increasingly wary of how the situation had been progressing. Thanks to prior directives from the heads of their respective organizations, the ruffians of the criminal underworld had followed Ramji's instructions with surprising obedience. Given the situation, some of them likely fell without even understanding what their role had been, and yet fallen they had, with nary a word of complaint. Such an attitude was indeed admirable. Owing to that, the number of cards in his hand were dwindling at an alarming rate, but in return, the face of the card kept concealed by the opposition was slowly but surely being revealed. They're a resolute bunch indeed. Belt might have built a relationship with Flanders, but the heavens still fervently keep watch over those who struggle. Fair. The effect of the Night Banisher obscured any eyes in the heavens, and by stacking wave upon wave of magic stones attacked to alter the mana concentration, the area was rendered intoxicating to spirits, which thus confirmed the absence of any cooperating spirits. Suspecting a highly versatile divine protection through a combination of the short and long range attacks, both physical and magical, the divine protection of which he was aware, which were limited to the ones who efficiently had been ascertained by using Reinhardt as a test subject, had their characteristics targeted, and thus 90% of the potential candidates of the current scenario had been eliminated. This ain't the divine protection of This ain't the divine protection of First Sight, or the divine protection of Second Coming. So he knows of Reinhardt's abilities. So if it's neither of the divine protection of Stormy Skies, nor the divine protection of Tiger's Den, not many candidates remain. Ooh, he's figuring this shit out. Okay, Ramji, bro. W fucking Ramji, bro. Let's see. The remaining 10% could possibly serve as one-trick ponies, depending on how they were used, but they lacked the versatility to deal with a situation as dire as this. With that, nearly all the candidates were dropped, relegated to the back of his mind. From here on out, he would move on the stage of suspecting something that was neither magic, nor spirit, nor divine protection. An authority. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bending the laws of reality. Wouldn't that be pride beyond the station of man, helmet bastard? Oh wait, no, he's saying this all out. Bending the laws of reality itself. Wouldn't that be pride beyond the station of man, helmet bastard? When the tide of the wave attack shifted and the opposition's movements took a turn, Aldebaran ground his teeth, sensing that the worst possibility that came to mind had been right on the mark. In all likelihood, that old giant, Valga Cromwell, had an inkling. Oh, this is Rom's. I was thinking, like, why the fuck did this shit go so crazy? This is Rom's name chapter. Oh Oh shit! Oh shit! Are we gonna get the entire Felt Camp name chapter in this arc? Yo, I just thought about that. Fuck. Oh shit, I gotta keep going. Okay. Oh, dude. I forgot Valga Cromwell is fucking wrong. In all likelihood, that old giant, Valga Cromwell, had an inkling that Aldebaran was using an authority, overcoming these imminent critical situations by stacking up countless matrices. The succession of wave attacks and the sequence of numerous attacks rich in variety that kept up for a while had been meant to whittle down the possibilities of how Aldebaran was escaping from such an overwhelming disadvantage. Near infinite trial and error by means of redefining a matrix and the existence of the territory, it was likely impossible that they had grasped that to be the true nature of Aldebaran's authority. But he had a keen feeling that it had been narrowed down to something quite close. The chief possibilities of magic or a divine protection had already been eliminated through an exhaustive investigation, and he got a sense that they had entered the stage where tremendous, absurd authority was starting to be suspected. Similar to Ezo Chander back in Pleiades, at Pleiades Watchtower. There was a high possibility that clever individuals would see through Aldebaran's authority. But then again, it would be difficult to corner Aldebaran even if one had seen through it. Ezo's judgment to flood the escape path with magic crystal or with water magic had been optimal in a certain sense, but it would have been a Herculean task to accomplish a similar feat in a space this expansive. Even so, the nasty premonition that tingled his heart did not disappear, causing Aldebaran to hesitate about updating his matrix in such a short time span. The difficulty of recovering from a single failure was steadily ramping up little by little. To begin with, why was the notorious Valga Cromwell from the Demi-Human War still alive? And serving Felt at that? Was Valga not the great strategist who harbored an immense hatred of humans, taking the lives of several thousand with his merciless stratagems in the Demi-Human War? His head was on the verge of seething as it blurted out complaints towards the incomprehensible combination. There's something wrong with this, seriously. Having come this far, he had come to a point where there were no longer any room for doubt. Doubt the worst possible premonition. As Ramaji endured the bad feeling in his chest, he vigorously stroked his own bald head for no reason. Likely, the helmet bastard was using an authority. Neither was it a divine protection, nor was it magic, but an extraordinary power said to have once been used by the witches. A power capable of bending the laws of the world. Of this, he was convinced. In the past, during the era of the Demi-Human War, when he had been acquainted with a successor to a witch, Sphinx, she had stated herself to be a failed creation, unable to reproduce an authority. However, though he had expressed his wish for Felt to gain achievements, with the enemy possessing an ability so desperately coveted by that witch, this was far too troublesome an opponent. And though he was loath to admit it, he had narrowed down to Helmet Bastard's authority to one of either reading the thoughts of an opponent or seeing into the short-term future. However, at the current point, Ramaji surmised that precognition had a higher probability than mind reading. Since he had continued to evade this side's attacks to this much of an extent, even supposing he was reading the mind of another, Ramaji thought it would undoubtedly be that of his own, and had thus deployed the measure to ascertain if that was the case. He had given unique orders to 2 different units. The first unit he commanded to pass them by without attacking, and the second he ordered to launch an all-out offensive, but the helmet bastard had gone to deal with the unit it would have been fine to ignore, plunging himself into the predicament of a pincer attack in between the first and second units. If he had read Ramji's mind, or the mind of someone in the first unit, then the helmet bastard would have just burdened himself with needless hardship. At that moment, he ascertained that the helmet bastard's authority was not that of mind reading. That was to say, the true nature of the helmet bastard's authority was now mostly narrowed down to precognition. Even if it had been narrowed down, he likely could not cheer out an "I did it!" with this conclusion. Sphinx had triumphantly spoken of them as powers that twisted the laws of reality, but something like precognition was going too far. Just how am I supposed to deal with something like that? There's something wrong with this, seriously. Anyone who can't use the flow method, fall back, but don't stop moving. His sonorous voice raised in a shout. Gaston, okay, that's Gaston. Gaston leapt out ahead of the group and swung at the helmet bastard. Gaston had already obtained Ramji's theory from the mirror bearer. Oh, apparently this bastard could see just a little ahead into the future, something like that. Then all I gotta do is finish in the moment. As he sees ahead, bellowing like thunder, Gaston abandoned the idea of landing a single glorious blow. Instead, he switched to a relentless fury of strikes, aiming to cut off the helmet bastard's escape routes by giving priority to landing a punch. However, in response to the barrage, the helmet bastard stomped the ground hard. Smart thinking, Gaston. But this time, thinking was the wrong move. A swelling wall of earth shielded the helmet bastard, halting the powerful onslaught. He gritted his teeth, just like the bastard had stated. His plan had backfired, and immediately afterwards, his opponent turned the very same earth into gauntlets around him and smashed Gaston in the forehead, sending him reeling back. And, as it was, Gaston still reeling back, since the helmet bastard was going for a follow-up. Orra! Gaston channeled his momentum into a backflip, unleashing a kick towards that sensation. The nimble strike delivered while spinning through the air was a facsimile? Facsimile of an acrobatic technique of Felt's used when attempting to slip away from Reinhardt's grasp. Like a cat twisting out of a hold, it was inconceivable that a brute like Gaston would pull off something so acrobatic. Not even the old man who served as the gardener for the house Astrea, who had been hit by it during training. You got me. 4 times at that. Alongside those cryptic words, Gaston's kick had sliced through empty air. An attack Gaston honed to the level of a finishing move had been rendered useless, but before he could even dwell on that frustration, a strange sensation seized his body. He felt oppression as though the hand of a giant had grabbed hold of him, yanking his right leg upwards. Upon closer inspection, he came to see that there was a near invisible thread restraining him, extending from the helmet bastard's right hand. Well, I mean, that's his only hand. Wasn't it just the red-haired maid accompanying him? This helmet bastard can use it too? Bro, we're 50 minutes in. I don't know like how close we are, but hold on, chat. Okay, so forgot exactly where I was, but I'm just gonna continue from right here. Wasn't it just the red-haired maid accompanying him? This helmet bastard can use it too? Mine's just a single strand though. In truth, she's a genius, that one. Hearing the helmet bastard's lifeless tone as he spoke words of praise for his comrade, Gaston ground his teeth. His right leg suspended by the thread, his foot raised all the way to head height. His left foot, barely touching the ground, was forced onto its toes, its body being left utterly powerless. In this ridiculous, helpless position, Gaston had been completely neutralized, and with that, the helmet bastard turned his back on Gaston. "Old man, I'm leaving him to you. I'm gonna go back up, yay." With those words, the helmet bastard strode away as if Gaston had already been dealt with. Taking his place was a man Gaston had only heard about, Reinhardt's father, donning the same hair and eye tonality as Reinhardt he did. Yet, the ambience his body was enveloped in exuded an entirely different quality. But more than anything, that expression, one that said he was only following the helmet bastard's order because he had no other choice, reluctant and unwilling, pissed Gaston off. Therefore, "You better not move awkwardly or..." Gaston struck the hardened face of his opponent and immediately lunged at the helmet bastard's turned back. But before his hand could reach the ladder, his balance faltered, and his opponent easily evaded the charge with a lunge, letting Gaston crash hard onto the ground. He had failed. Having forcibly ripped himself free from that thread, his nearly torn ankle could not hold him up. "You, with that leg? What's one damn leg worth? I'm putting my life on the line here. You think this is some game where I quit just because it hurts a little? But what really pisses me off the most, that you guys are doing this reluctantly. Don't go picking fights with people if you can't even laugh in admiration of your own comrade's hard work." Gaston hurled his fury at the silent helmet bastard as he forced himself to his feet with every last ounce of his strength. Even now, copious amounts of blood yet poured from Gaston's right ankle, the torn flesh exposing glimpses of white bone beneath, and yet the fact that he had clenched his teeth and stood was due to the importance of that which he had carried upon his back. Gaston had a woman he had fallen for, a woman who, perhaps feeling trepidation upon discovering that a villain of the divine dragon in tow was coming, had nonetheless held him and told him not to worry, before finally pushing him onwards to journey alongside Felt. Gaston had men he admired, a friend whose mouth would run unceasingly with discontent, all while worrying about those he was surrounded by, a lifelong companion who, despite being a coward at heart, would never withdraw and retreat, a mentor who, despite providing him with tedious, troublesome lectures, was very caring, howling that all held the right to achieve greatness, a bad influence who, loving a girl who would puff her chest out and make manifest her braggato, was turning his past, a past akin to a curse, into strength. Gaston. Oh, is Gaston gonna die here? Gaston had a man and a woman he looked up to. A strong man, so strong he could protect all things he wished to protect. A strong woman so radiant, no matter where she was, forgetting her would be absolutely impossible. Gaston had every reason to stand tall and fight. People like you, who don't even have that in them, got no damn right stepping into a ring where others are giving it their all! With a roar from the deepest depths of his soul, Gaston charged at the helmet bastard anew, deliberately stepping forward with his right foot. Even if that step were to shatter his leg, tear it apart, leave him unable to walk ever again, it mattered not. Even then, Gaston would still find something he would be able to do. Even then, he knew his comrades would never abandon him. Right now, All he wanted was to beat the helmet bastard. Pushing off the ground, Gaston's massive frame rose into the air as he drove his left knee upward in a crushing strike, even if blocked by the wall of earth. This time, he had upraised arms ready to hammer down at any moment as the I fucked it up. This time, he had upraised arms ready to hammer down at any moment as a second stage backup. Whichever it was, he would smash the helmet that hit that bastard's face. Honestly, it landed. As if he had anticipated Gaston's movements, the helmet bastard had already closed the distance in perfect rhythm with a takeoff. Right after Gaston's throat let out a faint groan, a fist clad in a gauntlet of stone struck his face as he sprung up into the air, casting his head to jerk backwards. You're fucking kidding me. At the end, not a single one of Gaston's attacks had landed. If his opponent was indeed making a sarcastic joke of a bitter remark about them landing or something of the sort, despite that, there was nothing to laugh about, even one bit. With the large loss of his leg contributing, Gaston's consciousness rapidly faded. At the end, concurrent with a familiar high-pitched voice, a burst of white light at the edge of his vision came into sight. The name of that meteor was the Star Staff. The majority of the meteors which existed in this world... Wait, media? Are they talking about medias or meteor? The majority of the meteors which existed in this world were said to be the handiwork of a single witch, driven by curiosity and desire, simply for her own amusement. The Star Staff, however, was different. With an aim in mind, the witch had painstakingly forged a crystallization of her intellect to realize that goal. That aim, though perhaps something so petty as silencing a quipping dragon, his power was genuine. By siphoning mana from its wielder, and by arbitrating the procedures, the power unleashed would become the Starlight of Shario. Of course, it was a light insignificant. It was a light insignificant in comparison to Al Shario, which could slay even dragons. However, its power, which any individual could acquire without study, could still be described as extraordinary. Pursued by starlight that would ceaselessly track its target until striking true, Aldebaran took every defensive measure he could conjure, but none could withstand the assault while also avoiding injury. An attack of this nature, which left no route for escape, was Aldebaran's nemesis. For that reason, in accordance with Aldebaran's own list of priorities, only one viable option remained. Sorry about this, old man. With that muttered apology, Aldebaran caused the ground beneath Heinkel, who had fallen on his bottom upon receiving a counterattack from Gaston, to rise up, thrusting him up as a shield in between Aldebaran and... No way! They're not killing Heinkel right here, bro. They are not killing Heinkel right here, bro. Naturally realizing his intentions, Heinkel had begun to yell, Aldebaran! With anger evident upon his face. However, in the next instant, the burst of white light struck the red-haired swordsman, his entire body permeated by an impact that could silence even a dragon. Aldebaran, who had experienced it firsthand, had suffered damage that seemed to scorch his brain and internal organs to a crisp. However, though Heinkel had fallen to his knees, passing out, he still possessed the leeway to writhe in agony on the spot. Okay, so he's still alive. Whether in in Wallachia, or that instance with Aldebaran, time and again. Through brutal struggles was an extraordinary sturdiness which Heinkel possessed proven. Having been saved by the resilience that seemed to bring Heinkel himself no gratification whatsoever, Aldebaran looked to where the light had originated. Thereupon, "So, you're Camberley." Leaning against the star staff that had unleashed a burst of light, blood dripping from his nose, was a man of the dwarf race. As of now, this battle had been done over 29,221 times since commencement. Consequently, Aldebaran understood the ruffians who had gathered here better than they did themselves. Of the opponents he had encountered thus far, he knew every last one by name. In a way, it could be said that he had developed a sort of one-sided kinship with them. Sorry, that would be a lie. He was sick and tired of facing such formidable opponents. Regardless, even if you're aware of the activation method, that ain't a meteor. That ain't a meteor that any half-assed amateur can put to use. How on earth did you manage to activate it? How do you think I did it? Keep guessing for the rest of your life. Don't tell me. You use Hexel? Blood dripping from his eyes and nose, along with bulging veins on his neck and forehead. This sight led Aldebaran to the conclusion that these were adverse effects resulting from the use of a certain illicit substance. Commonly referred to as Hexel, it is an illicit drug produced using Boko fruit. Oh, Boko fruit gives you a little bit of like a oomph, like after you exhaust all your mana. So I can imagine that if it's a drug made off of that, it's meant to give you such a heightened output for at least one or two techniques to make it so that you can use some crazy fucking magic or use a crazy media without, like the translation is metia, not meteor. Oh, well, no, actually, no, wait, it's cooler because like meteor is like kind of similar to a falling star. If the series is themed around fucking stars, or not fucking stars, but just stars, and like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like something that allows you to use magic without having a gate or having access to your gate, a meteor. All right, chat. We are going crazy right now. This is actually fucking fire. If you guys are enjoying this read along, so I know I've been kind of getting cooked with the writing, but oh man. Oh, this shit's actually gas. This shit's so fucking gas. I mean, I already knew that ReZero Arc 9 was gonna be fire in every way, shape, or form. Yeah. Dude, this chapter is going crazy. Dude, oh my god, like it's an enhancement drug. Commonly referred to as Hexel, is an explicit drug produced using Boko fruit, which in its raw form had the property of revitalizing the mana within the body. And the use of Hexel was prohibited even in the kingdom of Lagunica. Although the drug had a narcotic effect, it would, in essence, generate excess mana through the activation of the gate. Under the effect of that doping, even those unqualified could wield the star staff. Sheesh. Even then, your insides will be ripped apart, doing that sort of thing. You think I'm the only one who'll back down when Ratchins and Gaston and everyone else are risking it all? Even Reinhardt, you know? I landed up with an amazing punch. Oh my god. Bro. You are not going to make me cry over the fucking 3 alley thugs. You are not going to make me cry over the 3 alley thugs. You are not gonna make me cry over the 3 alley thugs. Tape Nagatsuki, you are not going to make me cry over the 3 fucking alley thugs. You are not gonna make me cry over the 3 alley thugs. No shot. No shot. No shot. No shot. No shot. No fucking shot. No shot. No shot. No shot, bro. With his complexion deathly pale, not even bothering to wipe away the bloody tears and nosebleed that appeared starkly vivid by contrast, Kimberly was in a state that could certainly be described as hopeless. However, spoken with a hint of a smile, his words lacked the typical recklessness of a desperate individual. Every last one of them. Behind Heinkel, who was still writhing from being burnt by starlight, Gaston lay unconscious. He was also among those who, having clashed with Aldebaran head-on, had wounded him with his words more than his fist. Wounded him. I can't fucking read. Individuals of such a short number many in this battle against the Feldkamp. Only by defeating all of them, one by one, thoroughly and painstakingly, had Aldebaran been able to arrive at this juncture. After 29,221 times stacking up attempt after attempt. Helmet bastard, you've never fought with your life on the line. Not even once. Ain't that right? You see, I have. That's what I'm doing now. To fight with my life on the line. Got both the reason and the courage. That much I've certainly proved. Stating thus with his trembling voice, Kimberly tightened his grip upon the star staff in his hand. And once more, he tried to invoke the light of a star. However, it was an impossibility. The mana to operate it was insufficient in him. And as if to punish a wielder in that state, the star staff backfired, burning Kimberly's gate and causing white smoke to billow from the entirety of his small frame. If an unqualified person were to execute the activation procedure, not only would it fail to be invoked, but there would also be a small penalty installed by the witch who had created the staff. It was a safety measure to prevent children from playing with it. In fact, that was the fact that the witch believed that this would serve as a safety measure showed that she did not comprehend the human heart. Anyway, the safety measure had performed its task, and Kimberly fell backwards, passing out. Tape. Okay, Tape. I'm not done. I'm not done reading this chapter. Please, Tape, kill some more people. Please. This shit's been so peak. It's been so peak. Oh my god, please kill some more people. Kill some more people. Let some more people die. Let some more people die. I think that's gonna be very, I mean, I don't know. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments, because dude, do you think that this is a good spot? Like for the three stooges to die? Like we're at one of the fucking peak arcs, and it's, I mean, like, do you want there to be a final arc where everyone comes together doing everything that they can just to fall to the main person and it only takes the main character to win? Like, no, we don't want that. That's too easy. Low key, I want Aldebaran and Subaru to team up in the fucking finale. Like, I want I want Al to come back from this. I digress. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna drink some of my tea. Karakoon. And a woman rushed over and caught his small body before it collapsed onto the ground. The woman with dark skin and wearing a what the fuck? Lascivious dress was the girl boss of the flower prison garden. Judging from her features, embracing an unconscious Kimberly, she directed a stern glare at Aldebaran. You don't need to glare at me like that. I ain't got the time or the interest to kick a dead body. You are all 7 days. No, now it's just 6 days. I'm only going cause a stir in the world for the next 6 days, no matter. What if, does he know because he has a gospel or tome of wisdom, or does he know because he just let shit hit the fan just to see how long it would take before the entire world ended after the fight with Reinhardt and Satella? This shit's fucking peak. This shit is peak. Holy fuck. I'm only gonna cause a stir in the world for the next 6 days, no longer than that. Though, none of you guys are willing to believe me. The boss of the flower prison garden called Toto, was she? The boss of the black serpent coin, Dotaro, had also tormented him relentlessly, but the gaze of this woman, holding the man precious to her, was just as cuttingly sharp. At her gaze, Aldebaran narrowed his eyes behind his helmet, probing Toto's fighting spirit with a simple, "Shall we?" Come to think of it, this marked the first time he had encountered a woman on this battlefield. He had yet to see faces of either Gracias, who had delivered the painful first blow, or felt their leader. Ignoring Aldebaran's sentiments while tensing all her limbs, Toto jerked her chin at Aldebaran as if to say, "Go!" A weary smile eking out due to her self-assured attitude, Aldebaran turned his back to her. And then... Behind Aldebaran, Toto had dropped the iron fan she had raised, struggling to tear away the steel thread wound around her neck. Unable to do so, the sound of her falling down reached his ears. The door of the dead, Ye approached the collapsed Toto, retrieving the iron fan that had been dropped to the ground, and spoke. "Wow, there's poison in this. From the smell and color. Jirame, I'd say. It's an instantly lethal poison, so it looks like you were really eager to go all out, weren't you?" Don't get so angry. Even though I'm this adorable, it's rude to say I'm getting angry. First of all, it's Alsama's fault, you know? Just because the opponent's a woman, you turn your back with a grin? I guess for Alsama it might not matter how many times you die, but... Does Ye know? Does Ye know? Does Ye know? Does Ye know? Now's the first time. It's because you came to help. It was not flattery. The truth, truly, was that he had not been caught off guard even once by Toto. Upon hearing Aldebaran's response, Ye fell silent with a and wore a displeased expression. That had been Aldebaran's way of showing gratitude. But despite her complaints about how he did not thank her enough, she would always react like this whenever he actually did communicate his thanks. There was no avail in saying it to her. Anyway, we finished suppressing this bunch too. And the old man is... he's burned, but he's still alive and kicking. That guy, don't you think he's a little off? Of course he's off. He's from House Estrella. Even someone like that is still in Estrella? Huh? Oh, even someone like that is still in Estrella, huh? Be that as it may, even for a member of House Estrella, the blast from the Star Staff seemed to have taken its toll. Heinkel appearing to be in more pain than he ever had more pain than he had ever been before, was approached by Ye for a quick check on his condition. At the same time, she shot Aldebaran a look that clearly suggested that they should take this chance to leave him behind. Ignoring Ye's gaze with his unusual indifference, Aldebaran turned his attention northwest. I assume that's where Reinhardt and... yeah, that's where Reinhardt and Stella's fighting. Where am I? Since the start of the battle, they had been cornered, pursued by smoke, and forced further and further south through the forest, while steadily whittling down the enemy force, numbering 500 people in their path. Aldebaran and his group had finally made it all the way back. And upon making it all the way back, well now, strangely enough, I don't feel like this is my first time seeing you, helmet bastard. Same goes for me. Maybe it's cause I've been thinking about you this whole time. At last, in his very plains where the chase had begun, at the end of a trial and error that had lasted 29,221 attempts, Aldebaran had succeeded in coming face to face with his true enemy, with Valga Cromwell. Sat cross-legged upon the needlessly spacious plain, Valga Cromwell rested his chin on his hands. Looking at him once more, he was huge. Even though he was sitting, he was still level with Aldebaran simply due to his body being so large, and perhaps because his legs were short. Relatable. I've also got a complex about my legs being short. I'll say this now, but I ain't ever made a fuss about the length of my legs, though back in my heyday, I used to wish I got bigger body for longer arms. You seem young enough even now, Gramps. How old are you? Who knows? I stopped counting after 100. Hey! Valga gave a cold answer, but as expected, giants had quite a long lifespan. Excluding the elves, who were said to live forever unless killed, the longest lived race in this world were probably the giants. Considering that those giants were now on the brink of extinction due to having angered a lone witch, the people of yore must not have known any limits to their range. A swordsman who went on a killing spree because his favorite food was dragon meat. A witch who... Whoa. A swordsman who went on a killing spree because his favorite food was dragon meat. A witch who almost wiped out the whole tribe due to being angered by a single member. An elf who got caught in the splash of the Witch of Envy. The list goes... Who are you talking about? Whose lore is this? Whose lore are we talking about right now? Okay. We're getting some fucking story and lore, bro. Oh my goodness. Dude. The list goes on. You seem awfully knowledgeable about history of a youngin' besides. You seem awfully knowledgeable about history for a youngin'. Besides, weren't y'all chummy with the Witch of Envy? Chummy? Oh, there's an unfunny joke. Where is this? Did I miss something? Where the fuck is this coming from? In their tit-for-tat, Valga's voice held a transparent intent to agitate him. However, Aldebaran could not go without refuting that statement. Something like getting along with the Witch of Envy, even if that evaluation was sarcastic or unjust, he would not let it slide. God damn, my brain's cooked. That one really does hate me to an extreme extent. Not once have our eyes ever met. The Witch of Envy? Meeting eyes with the Witch of Envy, That in itself gotta be an unfunny joke, eh? That one really doesn't that one really does hate me to an extreme extent. Not once have our eyes ever met. What does this mean? Who the fuck is Al, bro? If you ain't laughing, neither am I. Every step along the way, you've taken this sort of measures I hate the most. Where's little Miss Phil? Capturing that girl would be the quickest way for you to end this, ain't that so? You think I'd put her somewhere within your reach? Aldebaran clicked his tongue at that response, and Valga snorted his nose as he gazed behind the former, to the forest within, wherein a fierce battle had been unfolding until now. He continued with, and so? So you really went and done it, killing 500 people, huh? Though you might think it's cute compared to your kill count during the Civil War. Besides, nah, I'll keep it to myself. It doesn't matter. This too was tit for tat. So he forced himself to swallow the words he had begun to utter. In this battle, Aldebaran's party had not robbed a single person of their life. Fucking Subaru, bro. Subaru or Subaru's influence. In order to weaken their fighting strength, he had gone as far as to give them grievous wounds that put them on the verge of death, but none of their lives would be in danger if they had received the proper treatment. But mentioning that here would not have a positive influence on Valga's impression. It would only prompt skepticism regarding why he had taken such measures, such unnatural conduct. Naturally, as he had proposed several times, rather than adhering to non-lethality, there had been several points at which taking their opponent's lives would have made surmounting them easier. Even if the order of magnitude of his attempts thus increased, Aldebaran stubbornly abided by that restriction. He had made up his mind. Aldebaran had. From the moment he had loved, not a single person more would be lost in scope of his interference, save for the one exception, that of Natsuki Subaru. For that, Aldebaran would not take the lives of any. You're no longer able to bear the sight of anybody losing their lives before your eyes, ain't that so? I had my suspicions. So was when I heard that Ezo and Flam had been done in at the Pleiades watchtower, but their lives hadn't been taken. Oi. Flam used the divine protection of Mindspeak, and receiving the news, the Sword Saint went to intercept you at the Agrias sand dunes where he's the weakest. That in itself is a stratagem I couldn't understand. But there was no reason to let Ezo live. Once Flam used her divine protection too, she'd serve her purpose, yeah? Oh, Gramps. Oh, geezer. Any worries that may crop up in the future ought to be eradicated. You didn't take those natural measures. If I recall, you asked me where Felt's gone off to. That girl, I had her follow your escape path. Thus, ignoring Aldebaran's trembling voice, Valga raised his arm, a gauntlet fitted with conversation mirrors, and tapped a single one that did not have its lid down. Aldebaran's party had shattered a total of 12 mirrors now, and that fitting in his gauntlet was the 13th and final one. One of the other, wait, on the other side of that conversation mirror, Felt was present. Fact is, you guys ain't taking lives, and there are no shortage of people who will still be able to move once their restraints are removed. Even if 500's impossible, you think you still got enough strength to take one more than 100 again? You old geezer! Valga flashed a smile as he spoke, and inside Aldebaran's helmet, a vein bulged on his forehead. The fact that Valga had flipped his side's restriction on killing against them, having vigilantly progressed arrangements for returning those who had been neutralized to the front lines, was a surprise. However, it was not as though Aldebaran's party had been bereft of judgment either. Not only had they tied them up, but they had also broken their limbs, making it difficult for them to return to the battlefield. But when push comes to shove, we're provided enough hexo for everyone. Next won't be a battle against those who don't feel pain, but a battle against those who can't feel pain. Oh my god, no! No! Is he gonna, dude, is Al about to become like an extra crash out? Bring it on. Be it 100 or 200, they're welcome to come at me. Sorry, like I can't even read right now. Dude, my brain's all over the place. Like this shit's actually so fucking crazy. I just do it all over again. And it was when he was about to shout out in the spur of the moment. Watching Aldebaran as he raised his voice in anger, Valga abruptly narrowed his eyes. The gaze seemed as he knows now. This gaze seemed as if it was looking right into his helmet, and Aldebaran's breath involuntarily caught. Thereupon, Valga closed in with words. I see. Seems like this conversation's a first for you. Oh my god, bro! Dude, this shit's so good! This shit is so good, bro! Oh my god! Oh my god, this shit's so good! 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 This shit is so fucking good! Oh my god, this shit's so fucking good! This shit's so good! No. I gotta drink my tea. It's so good. Oh my god. Dude, ReZero is crazy. Bro. ReZero is fucking crazy, bro. Oh my god. Bro, no fucking way. Bro. Oh my god, dude. This shit is so good, bro. For a moment, not understanding what that signified, Aldebaran tensed up. But it was for just a moment. A terrible chill immediately crawled up his back, and Aldebaran finally defined the being before his eyes to be a threat greater than the sword saint. Yay! Instantly, Aldebaran used his force to the fullest to command Ye, who he had kept on standby to attack. Through Ye's steel thread technique, Valga Cromwell would be restrained. There was no choice but to shut his mouth, which had the potential to speak those thoughts of his. The quickest way to achieve that would be to take his life. However, that would not be done. Decidedly, he was doing that with his own intentions, not for any reason like the one Valga had described. So that you don't wake up for 6 days, I'll put you to sleep. He had yet to come up with a specific method, but doing that would be the best strategy. In order to do that, he ordered Ye to move. There you are. As if a stew in which a multitude of poison shimmered, a man's out-of-place voice hung in the air with a malice fragrance. The man had been hiding in the grass in the plain with an unsightly appearance, consisting of tattoos of of balanced scales inked all over his body. He directed his gaze at the spot, and Rick, is this somebody from like fucking Gladiator Island? I forget their names. A bizarrely large red eye, with a crookedness as if he had forced an eyeball that did not belong to him. That gaze had pierced Ye, who had jumped out of in an effort to obey Aldebaran's command. The covertness of a shinobi had been seen through by that man, likely Manfred of the Balance. Then Manfred placed his palm over his right hand and captured Ye in the gaze of his left eye that did not match in size. Don't move. As soon as the command was given, a slight disturbance was born in Ye's movements. Interfering with others through the weight of one's words was the effect of the divine protection of coercion. However, if the divine protection of Farsight had been the one to pinpoint Ye's position, this made it unique. This made it two unique divine protections at the same time. An apostle of type. An apostle of Typhon? An apostle of pride? There's different apostles? Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit, bro! What the fuck? Aldebaran gnashed his teeth. However, Ye overcame his divine protection's power of compulsion in an instant. With the step following the one disturbed, she regained composure, and with the shinobi's mobility, she attempted to extend a steel thread out towards Valga. However, upon that one step which had been disturbed, those transcended would intervene. Vengeance for Flam. Having hidden in the grass as Manfred had, Gracias leapt up and drove a kick into Ye's torso. Ye promptly crossed an arm over to catch it, but the strike from the girl who had mastered the flow method and at her young age was frighteningly weighty. Sorry, oh my god. I am fucking excited. Holy shit. Where am I? Sending Ye's slender body a great deal back. Though, I've got nothing to do with your big sis. For most of you, vengeance for Flam. Receiving Gracias' sweeping retribution, Ye's hand was instantly broken. Damn! Left in the forest by Ye, Hanko had yet to get back up after. Sorry, I'm reading too fast. After getting hit by the star staff earlier, and even suppose he had indeed risen up, he could not be counted upon in this situation. That was to say, re-expand territory, matrix, redefinition. From this point on, Aldebaran would shut the mouth of Valga Cromwell with not more than his own strength. For that purpose, you lost your cool. No matter the era. That's always the cause of defeat for the losing side. Exercising his authority, the moment he bent the world to his own rules, Aldebaran realized that before his eyes, Valga was chewing something up in his mouth. Since he also had a habit of gulping down the poison stored behind his molar, he could tell. And in this situation, there was only one thing that Valga could be dosing on. Heck so. In an instant, an enormous palm spread out in front of Aldebaran, and he immediately bent backwards. He fell on his backside. In exchange, the physique of the Sorry. I'm reading. My mind and brain is trying to my brain and fucking eyes are trying to read faster like I can. He fell on his backside. In exchange, the physique of the risen giant seemed to have enlarged even further from the efforts of the contraband drug he had taken. And Aldebaran's breath caught. Valga Cromwell's direct combat ability was unknown to Aldebaran. However, Valga's drive in this moment was no less than that of the numerous warriors he had come to face until this point. And in him dwelled a dreadfulness only found in those who staked their lives on the line. It happened at that moment in which that drive had overwhelmed him. Aldebaran! The shout of a man upon whom he had harbored no expectations on contributing whatsoever was pointing to the sky. Aldebaran had likewise caught a glimpse of him in the corner of his eye, but for Heinkel to point at the sky with a sense of urgency rather than terror or fear in these circumstances, there was but one reason: the time limit that would bring denouement to this battle. From beyond the sky it cometh. With this, time's up. As Aldebaran's words were convinced of the demise of this hectic situation, they overlapped with Valga's voice. But something was strange. In that voice, not a shred of resignation or irritation was present. On the contrary, it seemed as if Valga had been looking forward to this moment. In the subsequent instant, it came to pass. The light that had illuminated the sky on Valga's command now flashed anew. At that moment, as Ramji crushed the night-banishing magic stone within his hand, his body invigorated via his hexal-boosted gait, he played his final move for the purpose of felling the helmet bastard. The helmet bastard's behavior, be it mind reading or precognition, doesn't make a lick of sense. The possibility of his mind being read, and this stratagem thus being countered, was eliminated. In that case, consideration then fell upon him, predicting the future and evading accordingly. But that would be a tad incoherent. The future was something that existed only once. Innumerable choices were added up. Not more, not less. Moreover, it was not just the choices made by a single person, but the countless choices performed by countless people. The future could not be said to be decided by anything else. Infeasible it was to pursue the future, to respond to it perfectly. It was all somewhat lacking in realism and authority. To begin with, even supposing he could witness the future, the positioning of the mirror bearers would be unknown to him. But if he had witnessed the results even once, it was a different story. If the helmet bastard's authority was not one of looking forward into the future ahead, but rather one observing outcomes that have come to pass in the future, then his conduct up to this point, stood to reason. He would inspect pockets in order to identify those designated to be mirror bearers. He would validate its results he would validate the resulting outcome, and go on to the next. Supposing he had repeated this, the actions of the helmet bastard up to this point, and their results stood to reason. What in tarnation's that supposed to be? Because it made logical sense, Ramji had become incensed thinking. That don't make a lick of damn sense. Mind reading and precognition were both illogical, but returning after witnessing results. What to call it eluded him. But whatever the cause, it was a rule-breaking ability. Just how could it be thwarted? But it's got holes. In the first place, were he to possess the almighty ability to observe and respond appropriately to every possible circumstance, the helmet bastard would have been able to avoid encountering them at this juncture. The individual had prepared countermeasures for Reinhardt and had succeeded in entrapping him, but compared to meeting him head-on, it would have been much safer to evade him. As to why he had not done so, was the reason of why he could not do so. To witness the outcome and do things over. He did not have that much time. And thus, were the usage of the authority entirely up to the helmet bastard, supposing a lull between danger and safety arose, he would naturally wish to create an area of safety in that opening, and therein would the trap be set. From a position that the helmet bastard was made to believe was a safe zone, all he needed to do was fashion an inescapable crucible of traps. Thereupon, the final aspect of the trap he had concocted was, you've summoned your ally back, the Divine Dragon. The moment its presence was sighted out with the sky, the helmet bastard's faction and naturally the Felt Camp alike were convinced that it signified the battle's denouement. At the end of the day, the absence of anybody possessing overwhelming power was a primary factor in this battle coming into being. Sorry, oh my god, like dude, this shit's so fucking good. Like I'm not I know I'm not like super great at like reading aloud right now, but trust me, gonna be getting better. God, this chapter is so fucking long. Pause. Okay, we're picking back up at like a random spot too. Alright, so at the end of the day, the absence of anybody possessing overwhelming power was the primary factor in this battle coming into being. Were the Divine Dragon to be returned, and were it to lay devastation, I said that right, okay. And were to lay devastation upon the plains with a single one of its breaths, be there 500, or there 1,000 ruffians hardened in their resolve, they would not hold a candle to it. And as to demonstrate this, the Divine Dragon would unleash a single attack that would cause all fighting spirit to be lost. This unmistakably was a breath serving as a closing ceremony to the battle, one that would be let loose no matter what. And that breath would be made to be fired in onto a situation in which it could not be evaded. The night vanisher's effects to fake night into looking like daytime. By extension, it's a deceptive veil that shrouds the true landscape. Normally, aiming a night vanishing magic stone in the desired direction would be a difficult affair without being a skilled magician. But Ramji, having strained his gate via Hexel, had been able to bring that about. But for what reason had he done so? Because this was originally one of those stratagems not carried out during the Demi-Human War. Targeting an entity that the royal army could not disregard. A great magic would be fired to wipe out all of the enemies gathered around said being. A variant of a strategy performed in exchange for a life. Back then, the plan was to target someone and aim magic at the location. But today is different. The deception produced by the Night Banishers extended, with Ramji and the Helmet Bastard in it enveloped. Consequently, Volcanica, the Divine Dragon, inborn from heavens far away. The dragon tasked with terminating this bout would without doubt lay eyes upon a sprawling plain bereft of people. Ramji and the helmet bastard's presence there would go unnoticed by the dragon, thus causing it to attack horrendously. Having the dragon fire its breath at a place it thought no one was present in was Valgar Cromwell's method of nullifying the helmet bastard's safe zone. Instantly, the helmet bastard attempted to escape, yet his legs was seized by Valgar Cromwell's grip. Realizing this escape wasn't possible, the helmeted man gulped and gazed up at the heavens. The divine dragon's eyes were unable to see him. Its mouth came suffused with white light. A breath was released, directed at a desolate plain. Fell. At that moment, within Valga Cromwell's, nay, within Ramji's mind flashed the figure of his beloved grandchild. Her time as an infant, her time as a toddler, the woman she now was, all went in a single instant. Wondering if this was the scenery he would get to behold just before his passing. An all-out placed smile arose on Ramji's visage. So much so in fact that even though anger and loathing were present to have filled this pointless, gargantuan body of his, the faces of Liber and Sphinx, who had skirted death alongside him, flickered not in his consciousness. Bearing those powerful emotions at his terminus, Ramji and the helmet bastard both were engulfed by the dragon's breath. Cut it with the crap! In an instant, starlight darted past, smashing through the side of the airborne dragon's maw, and the breath that was to be seized loose veered off towards a different direction, exploding upon a plain that was verily desolate. Jostled by the homogeneous plume of smoke and the shockwave, Ramji was unable to hold firm and tumbled over. Dragged by the former's fall, the helmet bastard likewise raised a cry of pain and had it gone entirely as his own self had anticipated, the unthinkable might have the dragon's breath would have, without a doubt, finally driven the helmet bastard into a situation with no escape, leaving him defeated. And yet, I had a bad feeling this is what I'd find. This is what I find. Being prepared to die and wanting to die right away are two totally different. This is not felt. The one to roar thus, having smashed Valgar Cromwell's stratagem into smithereens. Their red eyes reddened a degree further whilst bearing tears. Star staff in hand was his adorable grandchild. By his own adorable grandchild, Valgar Cromwell had been defeated, bro. Bro. Bro, I thought it was over. I thought it was over for Rom, bro. I thought it was over for Rom, bro. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god, I thought it was over for Rom, bro. Dude. Bro.
Oh my good lord. Alright, okay. Actually, this is giving me some opportunities to heal.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Hold on. What the fuck's in the background? Hold on.
Giving me some opportunities to heal.
It's a stream. Dude. What? What the actual fuck, bro? Dude. Dude. Nah. Oh my god, bro. This shit was fucking crazy, bro. What? Bro. That shit was fucking crazy. Dude. I mean, this video is already like damn near fucking 2 hours. Like, dude, this was Rom's name chapter. Dude. That's why it's Rom. It's wait. Romji, it's Cromwell. Oh my god, dude. ReZero be doing these interests too hard. They make these interests too fucking hard. They make like these are the, other than Dragon Ball, these are the most goated fucking interests for any fucking anime or non-fiction fiction. Dude, these are the most goated fucking interests, bro. I don't care if you're, oh, I predicted that oh yeah, Felt's not here. They may come to save like no, you don't know what, like, bro. Not everybody knows like what Tape is cooking. Anyone can make a guess and anyone could be right? But dude, cut it with the crap. And then in that instant, starlight darted past, smashing through the side of the airborne dragon's maw, and the breath that was to be seized loose veered off towards a different direction, exploding upon a plain that was verily desolate. What? Jostled about by the homogeneous plume of smoke and the shockwave, Ramji was unable to hold firm and tumbled over. Dragged by the former's fall, the helmet bastard likewise raised a cry of pain of had it gone entirely on its own self, had anticipated the unthinkable might of the dragon's breath would have, without a doubt, finally driven the helmet bastard into a situation with no escape, leaving him defeated. And yet, I had a bad feeling that this is what I find. Being prepared to die and wanting to die right away are two totally different things, you know. Big stupid Ramji! The one to roar thus, having smashed Vulgar Cromwell's stratagem into smithereens, their red eyes reddened a degree further while bearing tears. Star staff in hand was his adorable grandchild. By his own adorable grandchild, Vulgar Cromwell had been defeated. This shit's fucking peak. This shit's fucking peak. Dude, I didn't think I'd fucking cry. Damn, y'all getting this shit, dude. Y'all get a whole 2 hours of me fucking deliberating and fucking reading. Anyway, this has been your boy Shaq, aka Black Natsuki Subaru. If you're not subscribed already, hit that hit that sub button. And also hit that notification bell as well, just so you can stay updated for when I make videos, content go live, and all the good crazy shit. Join the Discord. The link to the Discord is in the description below. Click on that link tree. You're going to find it. And look, for my boys who want to suggest content, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. Other than that, I love y'all. Thanks for pulling up. Leave love for this shit, because like, bro, we're gonna keep going. I need y'all to show me that constant, like, hey, we need this shit in our veins. We need it in our veins, right? Like you need to show me that. It makes me want to prioritize making this type of content for you guys, like reading these chapters, going all out, showing you how emotional I can be. Because dude, we're only on chapter 21. I saw we're like borderlining 30 right now. So just lock in, chat. Lock in, chat. This right here, hold on. This shit right here, that's gas. All right, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.